not everything, to not believe everything in these religions. So
your intellect,
make me a disbeliever?
No. If you use your intellect as you are using, you would know all of these religious ideas and ideologies cannot be all truth.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So already use the intellect. So that means which one is the truth you need to decipher and filter out. You can use your intellect to filter out, and this was the process that we were showing earlier on in terms of which makes sense or not. Okay, your intellect will then direct you and saying, this doesn't make sense. God is all knowledgeable, not all knowledgeable. God is like a pervert watching naked women having a bath, and so on. So there is this intellect role that you can clearly use, and then say, okay, look, let me now look at this book. Book is something that God supposedly had sent and revealed through the prophets and messengers to guide us to. How does this book tell me about himself and about everything else, right? Does it tell me that I'm created, I'm already doomed? He's created me and I'm already doomed. I'm already guilty. Imagine, you open a bank account and then the next moment they tell you, okay, you're in debt, my friend, £1 million. Just feed the debt into your account. You'd say, how is that? That is unjust. I've just opened a bank account. It should be blank, empty, and then I can put my money in, take my money out. But if you're already guilty, like many religions, I don't want to have to name them anyway. There are many religions who say you are already guilty of a crime that you did not commit. You weren't even there. Someone ate the apple, the fruits.
Do you have an example?
No, we're talking about Adam and Eve, the first parents.
Go on.
They were there in a garden, and they, because of their lapse and weakness, being also deceived in addition by Satan, they fall short of the requirements, and they disobeyed an action of God, a command of God. They ate of this tree, and now a religious tradition, a big religious tradition says, you are all guilty, every one of you. You are going to be punished to death unless someone else, like me, God, die for you. Now I see that, look, this is problematic to the very core, one after the other. Firstly, how can I be guilty of a crime that I didn't commit? I wasn't there. I did not have any involvement. You see, an action has to be done by a willing agent who is also capable. Can you make me guilty for not saving someone being run over by a bus? The only way I can save is having wings and flying over there. How can I be held accountable and guilty and punishable by death because I could not save someone in Brighton? I cannot simply go and fly because I don't have wings or transport myself. So not only that I have to have the will, but I have the capacity and the ability. Eating of the apple, I wasn't there. I didn't intend it to happen. I did not eat it myself. So how can I be guilty of that crime which I didn't commit? That is unjust. This injustice to the very core. Second point, the only way then I can be saved for a crime that I did not commit, do you know how? It's by the God who created me. He commits suicide. He says, I'm going to kill myself to save you. Even more unjust. God creates you in your weakness where you commit actions which is not up to the standard, and then God saves you by killing himself, punishing himself. Does it make sense to you? That's why I'm saying religious traditions must be used and looked at properly, and then say, look, what is the concept of God? What is the concept of sin and salvation? What is the concept of heaven and hell? Is there justice there, or is it just like everyone goes to heaven? I'm not talking about your belief, or am I talking about your belief? I'm just talking about a religious tradition. Everyone goes to heaven, or everyone goes to hell?
So, can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course you can.
So, you just said that it's unfair, right, for someone else, other people to go to hell because of other people, right? Is that what you, as I understand it, you just said it's unfair?
I said you should not be punished for someone else's crime.
Right, okay. So is it fair? So according to Islamic tradition, in Sahih Muslim, Christians are going to be put in hell for the sake of Muslims. And
you misunderstood. You can open up references like you always do. You misinterpret.
I've got it. It says Christians are going to be sent to hell on behalf of Muslims. It's there. The reference. Okay, I'll read it out.
Let's read and have a look.
Is that said in?
But even that, if you look at it, how can the Christians go to hell because of what?
To save the.
Someone else.
Save them.
Repeat what you just said before you.
said to save the Muslims.
No. Repeat what you just said
On behalf
first.
of the Muslims, they will go. The Christians shall go to hell. You said.
Allah's going to put Christians in hell for the sake of Muslims.
What do you mean sake of? Explain.
Instead of Muslims.
No. Explain what you mean instead of.
Are you saying instead of like Muslims that have committed crimes?
You know what? Let me read it so that I'm not misquoting it.
So you've read it, but you don't remember. No problem.
No, I remember. I'm saying.
Please. The text will be clear, right? So I want you to show me a text which has Arabic as well, so I can read the Arabic. Because very often we see here in the park, people have a translation which is also no. Translation doesn't do justice.
It's not translated.
No. Translation doesn't do justice to the topic because this is the baggage that we build in what it says. That's why I had to refer to the footnotes when I was chapter 112. This seeking eternal refuge means what? He's perfect, absolute, independent, because that's what the word means in Arabic language. They can't put all there, that's why they put it in the footnote, this is what it means. So even if you had something like this in a hadith, we'll check the Arabic and then we can explain it to you what the hadith really means.
It was funny. I watched this all on YouTube, and I'm here now. Like I'm the one like in between everything.
Yeah.
It's all mad.
So while you're finding it, it is not fair to punish someone for someone else's crime. It will be unjust. God says He is لَيْسَ بِظَلَّامٍ لِلْعَبِيدِ. He is not unjust in any way to His worshippers. He doesn't, because otherwise you will say, look, how can I be punished for someone else's crime? So when we're talking about filtering the religion, look at the concept of God. So when you look at the Quran and it makes sense to you, and the Quran provides you additional evidence for itself, then you can be sure and you can have that conviction. Remember, we're talking about how can I be sure? How can I be sure with certainty that this is it? Because I can't just say otherwise. You're absolutely right. If you're not sure, then you cannot say you're wrong, you're this, you're bad. You can't say that. You can only say, once you're absolutely sure that in my understanding of things, I think this is true, and based on that, this is not true and this is not correct, this is wrong.
So does the Quran say like if you don't follow Islam or if you don't follow all the beliefs or teachings of Islam, does it say you should be punished?
Okay, so Islam says very clearly, Inna dina inda Allah al-Islam. Surely the only acceptable religion or way of life is Islam, the sincere, pure submission to God. Okay? And whoever seeks any other way other than Islam, it will never be accepted of them. Never be accepted of them. That means, according to the Islamic teaching, the only acceptable ideology, way of life, religion, is the one which is sincere, pure, humble submission to the one and only God. If you submit and surrender to something else, it will never be accepted. If you worship a phone or a man or a woman or a football star, whatever, it will never be accepted of it. God is not going to accept this because He created us for a purpose. If you don't fulfill the purpose, then we will have to meet the consequence.
So of the Muslim population, would you say a sizable amount of the Muslim population are Muslims because of their family or their upbringing?
That's most religions. That's common to most religions.
I'd
People
say
are born into a family.
Yeah, so I'd say that. So if I'm not brought up in a Islamic household, I'm not taught those values growing up, how can I be expected to? And I'm 19 years of age now. I have my own outlook on the world, and they might conflict with some.
It depends now who we're talking about. If it's you, for example, excuse me, you have the whole world at your doorstep or at your fingertips. You are constantly watching on social media, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, whatever, right? The whole world, information-wise, it's at your fingertips. That means that means if you used your intellect, you should have used and say, look, there are more than 1/4 of the world's population who believes in one God. Why? Did you ask? They believe in one God, which makes sense to me. They don't believe in 3 in 1 gods, or they don't believe in multiple gods, or they don't believe in idols. So
A lot of people do believe that.
no, I'm saying when you yourself were to ask these questions, you using your intellect will then be coming to a point where you will not have an excuse saying, oh, I didn't know, no one told me, because the information is now bombarded to you from everywhere. Look, you came to Speaker's Corner, guess what happened? You came to Speaker's Corner, information came to you. You didn't come to the information came to you from us. Information has always been passed on to us, whether we've been bombarded with information passively or actively.
Okay,
always.
I understand what you're saying.
But if he was a 90-year-old woman or a man in a home who have no information because she or he doesn't look into the internet or have access to a library, doesn't have a copy of the Quran and so on, it's totally different. Because how much of the information did they have access to? You can only be judged with the information that you've been accessible to yourself. Like we said about the intellect is also there. So if that individual using the intellect realize I can't worship a tree or a monkey or an elephant or a human being or God is a trinity, whatever, then you already see that these people in the day of judgment they'll be in a positive light. Why? Because they are coming closer to the understanding of who God is. That's how much the intellect can arrive to. Your intellect cannot come to the conclusion about that God is this, everything. There's a limitation of intellect.